Good evening. My name is Maya Laura, and this is the Rockbridge Report. With me today is the Republican candidate to replace Ben Klein and as the representative for the 24th District in the Virginia House of Delegates, Ronnie Campbell. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you coming here. And my first question for you is, what are your strongest qualifications for this office?
I think it would be my life. I spent 25 years as a state trooper. I've spent 10 years on the school board, and I've been on the board of supervisors for the last 7 years. And my life ambition has always been serving the community. And that's pretty much the way that I've lived my life and the things that I have done, whether it was making the community safer or doing things to improve our schools, or as a member of the Board of Supervisors, doing things to protect the taxpayers and look out for the taxpaying citizens and all the citizens that work and live in Rockbridge County.
Well, your political experience is, as you said, at the local level, State Board of Supervisors, school boards, things like that. Why do you think you're ready to transfer to statewide political involvement?
I'm familiar with the legislative process and how it works. And as a state trooper, I was a member of the Virginia State Police Association. I was on the board of directors, and we traveled to Richmond during the legislative session to work with the legislators on bills that were important to law enforcement. As school board and supervisor, I've also traveled to Richmond, and I have seen firsthand how the process works. I'm familiar with it, and I feel completely comfortable that I'll be able to do a good job for the people living in the 24th District.
Very interesting. And could you speak a little bit more to how your local political experience on the Board of Supervisors particularly will inform your experience in the House of Delegates if you were to be elected?
Well, if you look, I have experience in local government. I have school experience. I can appreciate the things that the school systems need and what they're looking forward to, how that things of that nature will benefit the schools, benefit the local government. I'm very familiar with what we call unfunded mandates that you get from the state, where they tell you what to do, but they don't give you any money for it. And as a member of the law enforcement community, I'm also very familiar with safety issues that will come before the legislature, and I have firsthand experience on how to deal with them.
Great. And as I'm sure you know, you would be replacing Delegate Ben Klein as he moves to DC if you were to be elected. So how have you been working to energize the Republican coalition that he built over so many years in office?
Well, I think we're doing a real good job with the Republican people in the 24th District. We've got very positive response, and I'm just very satisfied with the support I'm getting. Sometimes I feel kind of humbled, but it's just, it's amazing at the people that are coming out and working for me, and people that know my experience and what I've done in the past, and that are willing to want to push me to the next level.
Fantastic. And your opponent, Christian Worth, for this seat, said that people want to change. They want to see the seat go blue. They want to see a change in leadership. And as we saw in midterms, that did happen quite a few times in some of the congressional races. So what is your appeal to voters in terms of why should they elect another conservative after having Ben Klein there for so long?
I do not feel that people are looking for a change. If you look at the 24th District, it's a very conservative district, and I feel that the people actually are looking for someone like myself. If you look at the midterms historically, and it followed exactly along historical lines, you have a change of leadership when you have the president of a different party. Usually it goes the other way, and everybody was predicting exactly what would happen. It didn't happen to the extent that some people were predicting, but it's just history. It's the way this country operates. After a couple of years, people go to the polls and they want a little bit of a change, but in some districts in the country, that doesn't happen. Those districts stay exactly like they are because the people that live there are comfortable with what's going on in their district.
Very interesting. And so speaking of not changing as much, what would you do differently than what Ben Klein has done over his years in the 24th District?
Asking me what I'd do differently is kind of a difficult question because Ben and I have done a lot of things together, and we were supportive of each other on a lot of different issues. So, you know, I can't pick out one particular thing. Now, I'm going to tell you that we're all human, and we all have our own mind, and people that get mad at somebody that's in an elected office because they take a particular stance on one issue, and they feel, well, he did that way on this issue. If we all were 100% in agreement all the time, it'd be kind of a boring place to live, wouldn't it? But no, actually, I'm sure that if I could think of a particular thing right now, I might be able to come up with something that Ben and I disagreed on. But, you know, for the most part, I think Ben did a fantastic job in the House of Delegates, and I'm expecting him to do an equal job or greater as a congressman.
Great. And so moving on to a little bit more of a specific issue, as you brought up with Ben Klein, I read your answers to questions in the Rockbridge Advocate, and you said Medicaid expansion was a mistake on the Virginia House of Delegates' part. So do you support rolling back Medicaid benefits, and what is your plan for an alternative after the expansion?
What I was talking about when I said it was a mistake is, to me, the federal government has made promises dealing with health care, and none of them have been true. They promised us lower premiums. Premiums went the other way. Everything that they have promised us with health care has been wrong. And Medicaid expansion is just another example of that. One of the things that's in this bill is that the federal government will pay 93% the first year. 7% will come from the hospitals. Now, that's not going to stay at the hospitals. That's going to go to people that have health insurance and people that are using the hospital facility, because they're going to pass that cost on to other people. So there's your health care going up. The next year it goes to 90 and 10. And there's no guarantee that the government, let's go back to unfunded mandates, there's no guarantee that the government will not say in a few years, well, we need to cut back on this, so we're going to go, and I'm just using numbers, we're going to pay 50%, but you're going to start picking up 40% state. It's just, to me, it's just too many open holes in it, and I think we should look for other alternatives, types of solution for health care.
Do you have any ideas right now of what you would propose were you to be elected on the alternatives to the Medicaid expansion?
Well, I, as a Republican, have to go back to things that the Republican Party has been saying, and that is being able to buy insurance across state lines, things that would drive premium costs down. And as a caring human, I am concerned about people with pre-existing conditions, and that's one of the things that people mistakenly accuse Republicans of doing, is not caring about pre-existing conditions. And that's not true. We do want to find some answer for pre-existing conditions and try to take care of the people that are in a position they can't help.
Great. So moving back to the race a little bit, the primary you won was extremely close. Just one vote separated you and second place for this nomination. So how are you going to convince voters who voted for your opponents to come out for you on election day instead of staying home?
Well, like I said, we are getting a lot of support from across the district. People are coming forward, and it's just been amazing. I've been to the Republican Party meetings in all the districts, and the people that are coming up to me and talking to me that are wanting to work for me and to help me. But you have to keep in mind that there was 4 people in this primary, and there was 2 of us that kind of pulled away, and both of us have law enforcement backgrounds. And I think that kind of said something for what the public is looking for. They're looking for someone, and I think that goes back to the last years with the way law enforcement's been treated in the country as a whole. And I think the people in this district were rallying around the two of us with that background. And in addition to that, I've talked a little bit about my experience, but I'm fairly well known, especially west of the mountain. Now, the other gentleman is very well known east of the mountain, and that's where the two of us had our strong points. But I did get a lot of votes east of the mountain.
So if you could indulge one more question concerning the primary. Voter recounts have been a national conversation, especially with states like Georgia and Florida. So do you support the decision for there not to have been a recount in that primary race?
Well, you have to look at the way the Republican Party was set up and the way that the race was done. We have a legislative committee, and that was the chairman from each county, except for Augusta County, because that county is split. They had a member of the Board of Supervisors was on that committee. And I had absolute faith and trust in that committee. As a matter of fact, a lot of their meetings I sent a representative to because I had trust and faith in the fact that everything they were going to do would be above board. And when the election came out, I had a one-vote margin. And I want to say that anybody that ever thinks their vote does not count, they need to look at this and think about it. And think about the fact that last year we had an election on the eastern side of the state where it was tied. So if you think your vote doesn't count, then you need to reconsider that. And every person, and I probably had 200 or 300 people come up to me since the primary and say, I did such and such, and I am so glad I stayed and voted. And I said, I really appreciate you, the one that made the difference. When actually every person that voted for me made the difference, because had any one or two of them not voted, it would have been a total different outcome. And if you look at what happened after the election with the one vote, the legislative committee met, and they made the decision that there was no need for a recount. And that decision was pretty much made along the rules of the party. And their decision was based on the fact that at each polling place, each candidate had an observer there. And that observer and the people that were running the polling place counted the votes. In Rockbridge's case, they counted them 3 times. But they counted the votes. Every person in there agreed to the vote count. And every person in there, the ballots were put into an envelope and it was sealed, and every person in that room signed off across that seal indicating that they were in agreement with the vote. And with the time frame that we were operating with the announcement having to be, this was Sunday, when the committee met, Sunday night about 5 or 6 o'clock, I think it was. The Electoral Board in Richmond, Department of Elections, the announcement had to be made Monday.
Right.
And they looked at everything. They felt that the counts were correct. They had everybody signing off on it. And they chose not to have a recount.
Great. Well, that's...
And I supported the committee. I would have supported the committee regardless of what they said. But in this particular case, I think their reasoning was justified, and I agree with them.
Great. Well, unfortunately, that does end our time together. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And thank you at home for watching the Rockbridge Report. Again, I'm Maya Laura, and this was Ronnie Campbell.